Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. The middle to end portion of May. Certainly a lot of people looking forward to college football. The preseason magazines will be out in a couple of weeks. We are inside of 2 months until SEC Media Days. There's a lot to get into, a lot of hype surrounding the 2025 season. And with that, let me bring in one of my favorites, Josh Pate, CBS Sports HQ. He's also the host of the Josh Pate College Football Show. And Josh is always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Josh, it's been a little while, man. How are you?
Yeah, I've been hanging out down in your neck of the woods, actually. Been to all three major programs down there, talked to all three head coaches. Been doing that all spring, man. Been all over the country. So this is a weird time of year. When I was a kid, I used to feel like, oh, this is like a wasteland. I got to wait forever for college football. And now that you do it for a living, you find out this is low-key the most valuable time of the year because you can get out on the road and sit down face-to-face with staff and talk to coaches. It's great. There are no games, but it's great.
No, I hear you, and you're exactly right. You've been very busy in our state. I know you were down talking to Mario Cristobal in Miami. You mentioned Florida State, but I primarily want to focus with you, Josh, on the Florida Gators. You've been very high on Florida on your program. I think you had them in your top 10 for post-spring rankings nationally, and you had to sit down with Billy Napier last week that I know a lot of Gator fans really enjoyed.
Yeah, look, the sit-down notwithstanding, so let's tackle this bit by bit. I am not someone who looks at a team in the preseason and says, first off, my word is gospel. You got to be really flexible on it. So I think highly of Florida right now. Reserve the right to change my mind. I don't think I will, but the follow-up to that is a lot of people look at schedule, and they project how they think a team will do against their schedule, and then they rank them. I don't really do that. I don't believe in doing that. So I'll look at Florida, whether they're playing the toughest or easiest schedule in the country, and I just try and stack them up comparatively to other teams. And I feel very similarly about them as I do about Oklahoma. I'm not just, because a record was something last year, going to assume that that record will be the way it is again this year. I think those are both really high-level potential teams. Now, they're high-variance teams, too, because of their schedule. But, you know, Napier, I said this to you last year. I'm going to say it again this year. That guy takes a fair amount of criticism. Some of it deserved. That's completely fine. I'm not here to defend him. But what I will say is, when you sit down with them and when you're in their building, when you're talking to their staff, they're so resolute in the way they go about their business. Now, you can be resolute in doing things the wrong way. You can be confident and also be wrong. They're banking that they're right. But what I'm trying to say is the outside world probably thinks if you haven't gotten the results you want, there's a lot of confusion and, you know, moving around of deck chairs on the Titanic. And that's just not the way it feels there at all. And I'm really interested with the way last year ended. You know, that's probably the first real glaringly positive sign that many people around that program, including the fan base, has gotten that, oh, maybe this is the right way. Maybe Billy is on to something. So all that, of course, leads to this fall. And does it really spark this fall? His fate, obviously, is really kind of tied to DJ Lagway. That's not a bad guy to have your fate tied to. I know there was a lot of talk about him in spring and how much he was or wasn't participating. I had my mind put at ease about his availability come fall, and I know Napier's been kind of vocal about that in the latter portion of spring ball, but I just think it's such a high-level potential team, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch them because as much as, you know, here's the one change. As much as people will talk about how tough Florida's schedule is, here's the one thing that I will say every team on Florida's schedule has to be aware of this year. They got to play Florida as well. Mm-hmm. So Georgia's got to play Florida. Texas has got to go to Florida, and that will not be easy. That's not some pencil-in W this year the way it may have seemed in the past.
Josh Pate, CBS Sports HQ with us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. And I thought the offseason for Florida really started when they got those 4 linemen back, 2 on offense, 2 on defense, Josh. When Slaughter and Barber on offense, Banks and Sapp on defense returned. I mean, those are 4 guys that probably would have heard their name called in the NFL draft late last month. And the fact that all of those guys are back, in fact, 4/5 of the starting offensive line is back. You bring back a lot of the defense. You bring back a lot of the skill position. Trey Wilson is healthy. Look, I agree with you. I think Florida on paper, this is clearly Billy's best roster heading into a season.
Without question. So that's what they've built towards. And I think also, you know, to get in the weeds a little bit, they've been very smart with the way they've tried to build their roster. They haven't, the way I put it on the show last night, as you and I are talking here on Monday, is they haven't leaned out over their skis. They haven't overly exposed themselves with the way they spend. They've been pretty smart. They've had a plan. They've stuck to it. They hadn't recruited a bunch of top 3 classes, but they've got top 10 caliber classes all throughout the roster. They've selectively done a good job in the portal, but they're really good also at making sure guys have gotten reps. There were a lot of young guys last year. They played. They just made it a point. Play them 1 series per half or per game. Make sure they've got reps, because in this day and age, your 2 deep is littered with freshmen. You hope the front end guys are experienced, but you're going to have young guys littered throughout your 2 deep. That's the best in the country that's dealing with that. So I think they've done a really good job there. And then that's why I go back to the high-end potential. Of course, the one wild card with every team is injury. And it doesn't matter which lineman you bring back. If they get hurt, then you could get derailed. But we can't predict injury. So if we get a relatively clean season there, I agree with you. I don't think it's comparable. That's easily the best-looking team that he will have put on the field. Now you just got to go win with them.
Josh, I'm curious if you got into some of the freshmen. Dallas Wilson made a big impact in the spring. I know a lot of Gator fans are also very high on Vernell Brown, Nashawn Montgomery. How happy, how satisfied are the Florida coaching staff about these incoming freshmen?
They're really happy. I mean, they feel like they did a really good job. They feel like they hit on a lot of those kids. I worked out at the same time. A lot of those guys were working out the day I was there. So I saw, a lot of the work they're putting in that the public doesn't get to see. That's a very spirited group of guys. I'll put it that way. That is a group that has not come in sort of sheepishly and, settled into the corner and kept their mouth shut and just tried to learn the ways of the program. They've gone in there with the full intent on playing, which is the way you got to be wired in major college football. It's sort of a validation to see that behind the scenes at Florida. But also, I'll go back to what I just said. And Billy talked about this during the sit-down he did with us. Philosophically, you've got to plan on playing those guys, partly out of necessity, but even the ones you're not going to count on to start per se, you've got to have a plan to play them at some points during the season. Number one, to keep them engaged and to make sure they're developing. Number two, because you're going to need them probably this year, and if not this year, definitely next year. And that's if you're right. If you're right that you hit on them, you better have them ready to play in the next 12 to 24 months maximum.
Josh Pate, CBS Sports HQ. Josh, final Florida question. Look, it's tough to say. It's obviously the latter portion of May, so we got a long time to go still. But in your opinion, has Florida built this roster up enough to where they have the depth that, say, the upper-tier SEC teams do, whether that be a Georgia, an LSU, an Alabama, a Texas?
I think it's headed both ways. I don't think their depth is on par with the best of the best of the best yet. So I would put them at a B tier in terms of the depth. But the thing about the A tier is today's A tier would have been yesterday's B tier. You're just not 3 deep. No one is 3 deep anymore like Alabama used to be or like Georgia used to be. Ohio State last year. People's lasting memory of that team is them buzzsawing through the playoff. And you kind of remember them as this super team. Well, they lost 2 games in the regular season, and their offensive line got beat to death. And they relied on the portal to even survive there. So that's Ohio State. Like, that's one of the deepest teams. So, if I say Florida's not totally comparable to those teams, they're not off by much because there is no truly elite depth out there anymore. Therefore, it's easier to pull to within striking distance. And honestly, if you're worth your salt as a coaching staff, that's all you need to be. You don't need to be stacking your 2 deep up and looking at your top 44 versus Georgia's top 44. You just got to be competitive with them and then go beat them on game day. That's what the game is all about.
And that's where we are now, you're right, with the land of NIL and obviously the transfer portal. Josh, quickly, you were also in Tallahassee. They're coming off 2-10, just a disaster in 2024. Obviously, a lot of change on the staff. A lot of change on the roster, including a brand-new quarterback in Castellanos. What's your opinion on Florida State as we head into the summer months?
Easily one of the biggest wild card question mark sort of unknown teams out there. I don't have a good feel for them. That's not because I didn't try. It's not because I didn't go there and talk to as many people as I could. I just don't know that they really know yet. when you take the approach they take and be as portal reliant as they are, they have answers. Like all the questions, all the problems everyone points out, Mike would have an answer to all that. Mike's a really good dude, man. He's very hard to pull against. And so it's not that they don't have a plan, they're not working hard, they're not addressing it. It's just that people work hard all the time and lose 6 games in this sport. Good guys lose 7 games all the time in this sport. So those things alone are not guarantees of anything. And when you're trying to hit the reset button, half a decade plus or whatever he is into your tenure, it doesn't sit well when you make the kind of money he makes. And you can call that fair or unfair or whatever. It's reality, though. Lincoln Riley's dealing with the same thing or a version of it at USC. These people are not paying you what they're paying you to experiment. You go experiment at Toledo. You go experiment at Utah State. You better know what you're doing at Florida State. That's what you were at Memphis for. You do that stuff at Memphis. You come to Florida State, you better know how to recruit. You better know how to develop and retain. And I don't know. They could win 9 games and win 4 games this year, and neither of those results would surprise me.
It'll be interesting to see how Gus Malzahn works up there. Josh, we got 60 seconds. You were down in Coral Gables as well. Leave us with your thought on Miami.
So weird coming off a double-digit win season, but still feeling like they left a ton on the table. But they did. And that's with the Cam Ward, but also the defensive side being terrible. And so they made a lot of defensive personnel moves. There's nowhere to go but up on that side of the ball. The question is, all right, what do you have with Carson Beck? You know, he started to throw. Him and Lagway will both be fine, I think, for fall camp. But what are you getting out of that offense? Because that's one of the best offensive staffs and units in the country right now. If they can just be complementary in nature, they can compete for the ACC. They should be a playoff team. And as ironic as it seems, coming off a 10-win season, I still think that staff's got a lot to prove, and they know they've got a lot to prove.
Josh, tell the good folks here in Jacksonville about CBS Sports, CBS Sports HQ, your show, and if they missed the Billy Napier interview from last week, where they can find it.
Yeah, I appreciate it, by the way. I always love coming on with you, man. Even when my allergies aren't attacking me like they are now. Any of those sit-downs, any of the stuff, any of my shows, it's all Josh Pate's College Football Show. It's on the YouTube channel in its entirety. It's in the podcast feed in its entirety. So wherever you get your shows, you can find it there.
He's one of our favorites. Josh Pate does a terrific job. Again, he had sit-downs last week at Florida, Florida State, and Miami, including that sit-down with Billy Napier. And I strongly urge Gator fans to go check out that one-on-one interview. Josh, I know you're busy. Thank you for the time. We'll talk again soon, pal.
I appreciate it, man. Good to talk to you.
Hey, Mia here, and thanks so much for watching 1010XL. For even more great content like this, be sure to subscribe and like the 1010XL channel.